You're listening to the Modern People Leader podcast. Today's episode will be a part of our People Leader series, where we go behind the scenes with today's top HR leaders and talk to them about how they've gotten to where they're at and what they really do every day. Our guest today is Alex Seiler. MPL family, stop what you're doing and take 5 seconds to go subscribe to the MPL Weekly Digest. Every week, we'll share the top 3 takeaways from the episode along with the full transcript. Just go to the show notes for this episode and click the link to subscribe. And now, without further ado, enjoy the show. Alex, welcome to the Modern People Leader. How have you been?
I've been good. How have you guys been?
Good. Busy. Very busy, but good. Last week was a bit hectic for both Steven and I. We were in Utah for a Modern People Leader thing, but this week it's been a little bit quieter, which is very nice.
But then you have the catch up and the email build up and the things that you miss. So it's been busy for sure. But it's good to have you on the show. We're looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being here. As you know, I'm a fan anyway, but now to actually be here and have just a really authentic conversation with both of you is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you're part of the, I guess, network that we've built from Transform. I think actually we technically met before Transform, but then at Transform we had the opportunity to meet in person, which was great. But yeah, part of the Transform community.
Yep.
It's just so nice being able to meet in person and connect in person. Like as I was just reflecting on what Daniel you were saying, like the fact that we can now reflect on all the connections we met at Transform, the IRL connections, and then like just being at this conference last week. I just want to say it's extremely nice to be able to meet with people live and like make that connection, because I think it matters.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because I'll bring it up later, but I think that's why it's a bit of a double-edged sword, right? We're lucky that we've got all these forms of digital tools and technology on our hands now, but sometimes that like steers us away from social connection now, right? So it's nice now that we have it. Like I think we took it for granted in the past, right? And now it's more of a nice to have. It used to be a must have, right?
So true.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, so let's get into good news stories. So every episode we start with good news stories, just a way to start with some positivity, get some good vibes going, and could be work related, could be personal, anything that comes to mind. You want to kick us off, Alex?
Yeah, I will. I've got 2 quick ones. One is I was in Palm Springs last weekend for a friend's 50th birthday. And it turned out actually somebody that I follow on LinkedIn, we follow each other, was in Palm Springs that same weekend and actually knows my friend who was turning 50. And so we actually, speaking of in real life, we met in real life for the first time and had brunch together. So we are now LinkedIn friends turned real friends. And he's actually somebody that I may recommend if he hasn't been on the pod to like come on at some point, because he's also just like a really great people leader as well. So and probably joining my personal board of advisors as well as a result of that. So that's one. And then randomly, I got a check for $700 this week that was highly unexpected.
What?
I know. So without getting
Let's
into
go.
too much detail, I lived in San Francisco for 2 years, a few years ago. And I guess the property company that managed my rental that I was in had a class action lawsuit filed against it. And whoever the plaintiffs were, won. And I got some money out of it. So I took that as a win or a victory this week. So those were my 2, very different, but those are the 2.
Anytime you get unexpected money, so $700, like that's excellent news. That's really good news. I can go next. So we're, I guess, 9 months into the existence of Modern People Leader being a formal business. So since we formed the LLC, and one thing that we've been talking about for a while is potentially having advisors, and it's looking like we might have our first one or two advisors that are going to help us with a couple of things that we're trying to figure out at the Modern People Leader, which is really exciting. And one of them shot us a 4-paragraph text last night in excitement. They were on like a 2 or 3 hour car ride listening to the podcast actually, and it sparked like some ideas for the business. And they shot over like these really long, thoughtful texts. Like I had to pull over so that I could send you this. And it's just exciting that we're even going to have advisors that can help us with some of these things we're trying to figure out.
That people are listening to the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. When Stephen initially, recommended that we have advisors like 7-8 months ago, I was like, to advise what? Like we barely just started a company, but now it makes sense. Like I think that we definitely need them. So that's my good news.
That's really exciting. I mean, as somebody who advises a couple different startups, like to that end, like I get really excited about how can I help somebody develop their product? How can I help them with their go-to-market strategy? That sort of thing. So it's really fun to kind of do that work. And I changed my LinkedIn banner a couple months ago to fuel your passion. And that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about. So I'm really excited for you guys that that's happening.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it's just, it's like Bizarro World. It's in such an amazing way, but I won't go off on that tangent. My good news, work related, is we had our first like multi-close week in which we've closed 2 new sponsors. And on top of everything that Daniel mentioned, the fact that we always thought we would create an elevated experience on the Modern People Leader, just in terms of the content itself and the way that we could partner with brands and magnify their presence. And to see that reflected in closed deals is really, really exciting. And we're just getting started. That's the thing, Alex. Like we're so early in the journey. So that's my work good news, and my personal good news. And we actually, if you're listening to our episodes, you're going to know that this is partial good news from our last episode that we recorded yesterday. But I'm going to get some family time in this weekend in like a totally different context. And I realized I've never like spent time with my family's in-laws. So Daniel's wife, Tori, her family owns a ranch. They've invited us to come to their ranch and spend some time there this weekend. And so it's like it's a bonus, but bonus good news. But those are
two city boys out in a ranch this weekend.
Yeah.
I want to
embarrassing ourselves.
Yeah, I want to see the photos of this.
We're gonna have to get some good photos.
Yeah.
This is going to be the last time they invite us to a hunting trip.
Love it.
Is it going to be like Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie and like The Simple Life? Is that what it's going to be? A little bit of that going on?
I did a brush up on my Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton, but probably
yes, Alex. Yes.
Yes. Stephen was nodding.
Oh, that's hilarious. So Alex, I guess what stands out to me about your career is just the diversity in industries that you've worked in. So you've worked for companies like NBC, Citi Global Wealth Management, Blue Shield of California, Ogilvy, WeWork, and then most recently GHG. So I see some healthcare in there. I see finance. I see media. Yeah, I mean, like I feel like most people leaders will pick a niche and they'll stick to that niche their entire career. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting that you've decided to do the total opposite. So give us the Alex Seiler origin story and help us fill in some of the blanks that maybe aren't on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think first of all that, I mean, you can maybe take away from my accent, but also from my name, but I'm a little bit of what I call a global mutt. So my mother is British. My father is Swiss. I was born and raised in Hong Kong. And actually this coming January, which reminds me how old I'm becoming. Don't be fooled by the youthful looks, is that it's going to be 20 years living and working in the US this coming January. So So I always get asked, like, where am I from? Because people can't place my accent. And I'm like, it's the all over the world global nut accent. So I think that that's one thing. I fell into the people space. That's the other thing. You know, I think some people these days, they know that that's what they want to do. I say, looking back, like at high school and other things, when you do those personality tests, actually HR came up, and I followed the British curriculum, did an A level in HR and got 100 out of 100. So I probably was ignoring some clear signs that were telling me this should be a path that I should follow. But I literally fell into it, enjoyed it, and decided, like, I'm good at it. So all the stars and the moon kind of aligned. You picked up on a very good, very wise piece of my strategy in my career, which is not to be pegged to one industry. So I started out in finance, and I didn't want to be dubbed as just a finance HR guy. So that's when I pivoted into advertising. And I feel like you can learn different things from different industries. So that was part of my thinking. Not to mention, I also got my green card when I worked in advertising, because that was during the height of the economic downturn between '08 and 2008. I was looking for a different type of opportunity that would allow for that. But for me, like, diversity of industry, diversity of opportunity, learning different things has been really important, and not being pegged as you can only do HR with people in this space. I think some people talk about HR as transferable. You can work in any industry, but I've also come across certain industries where they're like, unless you've worked in HR and tech, we won't consider you, right? So sometimes, like, there's a really nice kind of, I would call it spiel, that goes with that. But the reality is, when they start looking at candidates, they want people that have had that kind of experience as well. So you've got your cookie cutter approach, and then you've got some people that are a little bit unique and different. So I wanted to play to both, and that was part of my thought process. So yeah, that's kind of the 15,000 foot view. And I think right now my focus is just doing work that has purpose, that brings me joy, and has meaning to it, which I can't say that's always happened in my career. Sometimes it's just been the job is the job, but like, that's really important to me at this stage in my career.
Yeah, what I found in my career, because I've jumped around industries as well, and some of those lessons I learned the hard way, where your skills may be transferable, but the industry may not value those skills, and so I that definitely hits close to home for me. Yeah, I think you have to be resilient to
Yeah.
be able to pivot from one industry to the other industry. And it sounds like that's kind of part of who you are. And I know you've been going through some life transitions in your work and personal life lately. Can you share with us, like, how are you doing? You know, how are you
Yeah.
managing and navigating through these changes?
Yeah, it's been, I would describe, an interesting road, interesting journey. So, firstly, on the job front, my most recent role at GHJ got eliminated in July. And I think coming out of that, I realized how burnt out I was, because I put so much time and energy into building and scaling and restructuring the team, all the things to create the right sort of playbook and infrastructure for that business. But I realized I hadn't really taken care of myself in the process. So there was a lot of burnout. I'll be honest, the other thing is, I've always known this about myself, but I appreciate structure and routine. And so we always forget, well, we all know really at the end of the day that work gives us that structure and routine. And so when it doesn't exist, like, where do you look to? And I go back to my prior comment. That's why I've been trying to find joy and purpose in other things and figuring out what those things are. And then I think the other thing is, on the personal front, which plays into the work front, my mother has been dealing with different forms of cancer for the last like 11, 12 years. She's beaten a few of them. But when I actually started my job at GHJ, she got diagnosed with esophageal cancer. And then in April of this year, we found out that it had metastasized to her liver, and it was terminal. So I've been trying to spend as much time with her in England as possible. And I think what that taught me also was, it's very easy to distract yourself from things like that when you've got work. But when work is not part of your day to day, all those emotions bubble to the surface, and you have to deal with them, right? And I think the other thing is, you forget like what is going on or operating in the background of people's lives that you don't see on a Zoom or whatever every day. And they could be dealing with grief or tragedy or something of that nature. And I think the other thing I've realized is it's really important to talk more about grief and make sure that people in the workplace understand how to manage that, because a lot of bereavement policies are like, oh, you get 7 days, but grief doesn't last 7 days, right? And it comes and goes. So I think managing between both of those things has been, challenging, candidly. And I've needed to give myself some time and some space and some grace to figure it out, right? So those have been really the things that have been going on for me, and particularly in the last couple of months.
Wow. Well, first, we're sending all of the positive thoughts and vibes to your family, to your mom. That is that's so hard.
Yeah.
And you can't you can't plan out life to play out the way that is convenient for you. It just
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I relate to is like, it's almost like everyone in the world has a playbook like this, like they grew up like reading some sort of manual, and they're like, this is how you deal with
Yeah.
death, and this is how you deal with sadness, and this is how you deal with fear, because people seem to like be able to do just fine. For me, it's not intuitive at all. And I find myself lost in things like work or relationships or isolation, rather than just like being able to navigate that, because I never got that guide. Like I'm still looking for the
Yeah.
manual on how to deal with life. And so I think that I certainly relate to what you were describing. And unfortunately, this story is far too common right now. And so you're not alone. There are a lot of people that are living the story that you just shared, a version, right? And so it's good to hear that you're finding that space. It's great to hear that you are being self-compassionate. That is, I'm embarrassed to say I'm a 47-year-old man, human being, and self-compassion isn't something that I knew until in my 40s. And and again, I guess like I don't know if other people just kind of have that, but it's like for me, it's like I can be my own harshest critic.
I'm working on it. It's tough.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all kind of part of that same
Yeah.
tribe. And so what are some of the things that you're doing? Are there any practices that you have that you're leaning on right now?
Yeah, I think so. One of them, first of all, is so what I didn't do well when I was younger was seeking out help. And obviously, whatever that help was, or subject matter expert that you needed to lean on, right? I always used to think I could solve everything, right, myself, which is just frankly naive and delusional. None of us can do that. And so I've learned the importance of leaning on others. So I think I've re-engaged a therapist, for example, that I had in the past, because one of the things I realized is, particularly with my mom, is like I don't know what's ahead of me necessarily. And so I can't do it alone. So I need to lean on somebody. So that's one thing that's been really important to me to kind of get ahead of. And I realize I'm more fortunate than some, because some people lose people very suddenly and they don't have that. So trying to use this as best as you can to prepare for whatever is on the horizon, right? And I think the other thing is really to focus on things that give me joy. And I would say that to other people, passion and interest. So I've really been seeking that out. So while I figure out what's next for me, career-wise, I've really been leaning into like starting to do some work again with the Josh Bersin Academy about faculty advising the startups I mentioned. I'm thinking about doing some more coaching, things that are going to give me that sense of purpose. I love to do a lot of speaking like this and writing. So whatever I feel like I can do to give back, even if that means, for example, helping provide free coaching sessions to people that have also been impacted by job loss or things like that, something where I feel like I'm doing some good and giving back and having some sort of impact as well.
I don't think I've ever shared this on the podcast, but part of the reason why the Modern People Leader even exists is because my best friend passed away 3 years ago. And or I guess 4 years ago now. Wow. It's been 4 years. And he was a former employee of Stevens as well. And I was trying to find like purpose in life. And I was like, what is something that I could do where I'm using the talent and the skills that I have? It's something that I'm passionate about, and I can do it with somebody else that I consider like a friend. Steven's my family member, former coworker, former boss. I do think it is really important to like find those things that give you energy
Yeah.
outside of your 9 to 5, because this was our side hustle or like side project for 2 years. Like we were saying earlier, we didn't do this full time until, or Steven's still not doing it full time, hopefully one day, but until 9 months ago. So I just wanted to give you kudos for finding those things. It sounds like you're you're doing all the right things. I know there isn't a playbook, but it sounds like you're seeking out help. You are preparing yourself for a hard life event that is inevitable, because
Yeah.
all of us die one day,
Yeah.
unfortunately, unless we can figure something out.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, so kudos on all that. In addition to their uh, always being stuff going on in people's personal lives, there's a lot going on in the world right now.
Mhm.
So I wanted to ask you, like, how would you, I guess, describe the state of the workplace, which really is like the state of like life in a way, because a lot of people are working from home. Their work lives and their personal lives are more integrated than ever before. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like, what are some of the conversations that you're having
Yeah.
with other HR leaders right now that are top of
Yeah.
mind?
Yeah, I mean, I feel very fortunate that I also have a really great network. So I am having those conversations regularly with different people in different industries, but there is a lot of sort of connective tissue that I'm hearing in those conversations. I think what's coming out is like how challenged and burnt out people are. A lot of people I know are either want to take a break, are taking a break, they're rethinking their career goals and their aspirations, or a number of them are moving out of sort of in-house operator roles into advisory or consulting roles because they just want to do something a little bit different. I think the challenge I'm hearing, and that I think is something that that resonates with me, is these days there's a lot of indecisiveness within or amongst leadership teams that can have an impact on a CPO and its people strategy. And what I mean by that is, one day your focus could be like, how do we make sure that we're aligning with our employees and what they need? But then another day it could be, oh, well, what are our competitors doing? And what are other CEOs around me doing? And those two things don't always line up. And so you want to make sure that you're forging a clear path. And I think as a CPO, you're kind of caught in the middle and you're figuring out, how can we make employees happy? How can we make leaders happy? And those things aren't always mutually exclusive. They don't always work, right? So I think that's a lot what I'm hearing. And people are just getting tired because of that, because they're like, there's nothing that's straightforward. And everything is either a new challenge or an extension of an old challenge, is the way that I've seen it.
We've been having a lot of conversations with past guests just off the record to figure out what's top of mind, and this is what is coming up almost every single time.
Mm-hmm.
People leaders are burnt out because they're having to do this balancing act of making both employees and the other leaders in the team happy. And our thinking was like, we want to build a next product. Like, what's modern people leader product number 2? So if the podcast is product 1, what's product 2? Is it a community? Is it software? Like, we have no idea. And we've gotten to a point where we acknowledge that this is the biggest problem that HR leaders are facing, but we're like, how do you fix this? That's we're like, what can you do? Like, what is really like the root of this problem? So I don't expect you to have the answer, but I'm curious if you have any thoughts.
I think part of it is just like, in my experiences, the best way it's worked is just like ongoing education, socialization of issues, using your influence through data and other means to just get that point across, right? And it's not about winning every battle. It's not about that, but it's about making rational choices for your business, right? And sometimes, unfortunately, the decisions that are made are not always rational, right? And so I think that's where the rubber meets the road. But that's the thing. In order to make that happen, everything I just described, you have to stay on top of people all the time. And that's where it becomes really tiring because we're human and we have moments where we're not at our best. And in those moments, that's when poor decision making could happen, right? So I think that's really where it stems from. There isn't, like many other things in the people space, there isn't a silver bullet, to your point, but it's a lot of like constant ongoing work and like celebrating the victories as you get them, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Um, what else is keeping you up at night? Like when you think about that that next role that you eventually take, maybe it's another people leader role.
Yeah.
What, I guess, outside of what we just talked about, is there anything else that concerns you or you're like not looking forward to having to deal with because it's almost inevitable?
Yeah, I mean, one of them, there's a couple. There's so many, actually. I mean, there's some topics that I feel like I'm always going to have to talk about
Alex is like, this isn't a 2-hour podcast, Danielle. Sorry.
I mean, I was like, this could go on. There's certain things I have to tell you, I won't say what they are, that are like going to be front and center for a long time, but I'm already tired of speaking about them. But I will say that the one that obviously we're not getting away from is AI, right? I'm not going to lie. I'm a learner by nature. I want to learn. I'm like focused on learning. Actually, the next sort of sprint on Josh Burson Academy is very AI focused. I'm actually going to be joining that one as a participant because I want to learn just as much as anyone else. Because I'm coming in as not being a subject matter expert in that space, but it's going to play a very obviously dominant space at this point. I think one of my frustrations with it is I feel like everyone's trying to get the answer to AI yesterday. And like anything, it's going to take time. If we look back at other things that have happened in the people space, think about years gone by, people like, we really need to automate people processes and have less human intervention. Like that didn't happen overnight. That came with more HR systems and technology coming out, right? So, but I think it's the new hot topic. So everyone wants to try and figure it out. So that's one. The other thing that worries me, candidly, is honestly the state of diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly in the US. I feel like the pendulum constantly is swinging. I feel like we take one step forward and two steps back. So I'm always, curious where we're going to make some ongoing, consistent change. And I feel like it becomes very important to businesses when it's in a news cycle, but when it's outside of a news cycle, it's less important. You've seen that by a lot of recent DEI executives' roles being eliminated. So it does make me worried, and we're going, not to get political, but we're going into an election year. So and it is something that becomes highly politicized. So that's something that makes me nervous because it's something we need to talk about as a CPO, but it also becomes something that becomes sort of politicized, and certain businesses get scared about having a point of view on these topics as well. So those are the two that have been particularly, and then the one that's kind of like, I guess, what's going to happen to the people function? It's had a lot of pressure put on it in the last couple of years with the pandemic. Like, will it continue to be valued the way it has the last few years, or are people going to look at it differently as there's, I don't know, depending on what the challenges are, right? Will there be more challenges that need to be faced? So those are things I've been thinking about most as of late.
On the AI point, Stephen, you should give I can't remember what you were calling this role that might exist one day, but yeah. I liked that insight yesterday.
Well, and it's like we're building a narrative of sorts, and so it being a podcaster and constantly having the same conversation, but from slightly different perspectives, is so cool because you can start to see where ideas and thoughts overlap. And it's like, ooh, I think I may see a trend here. And it's happened a few times already in our existence. With respect to AI, like there's a lot of shit on HR's plate right now. Like, and the list and your resources are shrinking. So we have less resources. There more and more work's being put on our plate. There isn't, my hypothesis is there's not going to be enough time for HR to figure out how to truly leverage AI. And it's because the power is revolutionary. We keep going back to a story that we heard here on the show about, it was comparing AI to the Industrial Revolution, and more specifically, when we went from steam power to electricity. And the long short is, in the steam power days, that was due to the size of the machinery, you could only have one engine. And because of the heat and other considerations, it had to be in the middle of the factory. And everything was configured around this massive engine or machinery that was in the middle of the factory. Well, then came electricity. And so first they had to convert, change the machinery to adopt electricity. And the easiest way to do that was just to modify everything in the middle of the factory floor. But then they realized, like, wait a second, we're no longer limited by having one machine in the middle of the floor. What if we were to like have multiple machines on the floor, maximize the square footage, and it totally transformed things. And so when you look at it that way, it's like, okay, new technology comes, we can't see the future. My concern is, in the case of AI, we also don't have the time to figure it out, and it's going to move really, really quickly. And I believe there's going to be like a role, like an AI operations engineer, and the sole role of this person or people will be to like go in and figure out, this is how we're going to adopt AI here. Like, we stank rank the operational efficiency. So it's going to be a transformation of sorts, but I think this one's going to move a lot faster, and it's going to be a lot easier for companies to be able to do this in-house versus hiring Accenture or McKinsey or whomever. So that's my hypothesis, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, it's also going to be interesting, the more that we find out and the more that we know, like how many people in the people function really still want to do work in that space, right? Because if their jobs change, depending on what that looks like, they might be like, hey, this isn't what I necessarily signed up to do. This is not, while I'm willing to do different things, some of this work is very different, right? And doesn't align with my own personal goals. So it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of shakeout there'll be long-term to this as well, because we just don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's the scary part of AI that feels kind of yucky, that no one, we're gonna have to go through that. The day of reckoning will come.
Yeah.
But it's like I could see a lot of companies deferring that, but also getting behind in the innovation. So
yeah, I agree.
Well, I am a big believer that you can't move forward in life until you've taken a look in the past and looked at that for what it is, for what it was, and get both of your feet planted in the future. Then you can truly start moving forward and accomplishing all the great things. And so just for a few minutes, I want to look back and reflect at your time at GHJ, and just talk about what your biggest learnings were, what that experience was like. There's always positive, there's always lessons learned, there's always things that, having all the information, maybe you would have done a little differently. And so my question for you is, just share with us like the biggest success you had there and what you're most proud of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that when I was first interviewed, I was told that the firm had never truly got the HR or people function right. So they'd had a lot of band-aid solutions, but no long-term strategies. And that's the sort of work I love to do around transformation. So I think what I'm most proud of is the fact that I came up with a systemic way to incorporate long-term strategies to make the people function a success there. So whether it be starting out with a people transformation plan, then a people strategy, and then also restructuring the entire team, so that By the time I left, we were, as both of Transform being a good example, we were winning awards or accolades. So it was seeing that change or shift, and knowing that I had helped provide the infrastructure and the playbook to set them up for success in the future.
So I'm curious, like, paint a picture of what it looked like when you got there with some of the Band-Aid strategies versus what it looked like a few months ago when you were there, and what that transformation looked like.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I think so when I got there, first of all, there were a lot of open positions on the people team, and the people that were there didn't seem like they necessarily were bought in to what we were doing either. So what I realized quickly was that I am a firm believer in what I call a team within a team concept, where everyone knows enough about each other's roles to be dangerous. And what I realized is that was going to be super important in the team that I built there, because everyone operated in a silo and really didn't understand what each other was doing. And as a result, the business was completely lost. They had no idea what different people within the people function were responsible for. And when somebody went out on vacation, everything came to a grinding halt. So there was a lot of single points of failure. And obviously, I wanted to put an end or stop to that and make sure that we had a very fluid team, that if somebody went out, it didn't matter. You had a backup, you had another member of the people team that could answer those questions. So that's one very like clear illustrative example. I think another one was I helped build out the internal comms function there as well, because we heard that there was like no communication happening between the people team and the business. And so one of the things we immediately introduced was like a weekly people team email to explain everything that was going on. And actually certain departments started adopting the same approach and template because they loved it so much. And we got so much kudos around that. So it's things that like that helps sort of change the narrative.
And so on the theme of GHJ,
Yeah.
what were maybe one or two things that looking back you would have done a little bit differently?
Yeah, I think one of the things, I'm somebody who, and both of you know me a little bit now, I'm very strong in my convictions. And I think sometimes I'm a very passionate person and I can show my intensity. But I think what's hard is because I'm very decisive, I also recognize that some people are not. And it's hard to know how much change people can handle at one time, right? And how far you can push them and whether you're pushing people to their breaking point or not. So I think in hindsight, I feel like I have a very good sense of like how far you can push people, but I also think it's that push and pull. I'm probably looking back at certain decisions would have pulled back a little bit on certain things and given certain things a little bit more time versus other ones where I think pushing was definitely the right thing to do. So I think it's the push and pull for me.
And now that you're, I guess, uh, looking for that next role, you've had a few months to sort of reflect. You're putting energy into things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
But I imagine like the job search, has it started yet, or are you about to start? Like, where are you at with that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's slow and thoughtful is the best way to describe it. I have definitely wanted to give myself some time. And so I'm pretty much just about to start it, should I say. I'm really considering sort of more interim consulting fractional opportunities right now while I search for the next full-time role, because I think that might just take a little bit of time. So that might be sort of something I'm looking into. And look, I'm exploring, as you mentioned earlier, Daniel. It could be another CPO gig, or it could be something that leverages my people skills, but in a different way. So it could be like a spin on something and a little different. So something that's really going to challenge me. That's been my focus right now, or that's how I'm approaching the focus to my job search.
And you said it's slow and thoughtful, and I think about Steven's approach these last few months for his next role, and he, I think, Steven, you can speak for yourself, but you basically started by just listing out like your must-haves versus nice-to-haves, and then from there you started to flesh out like what exactly you were looking for. So I'm curious, like what does that look like for you? Do you have like a Google Doc with all of your rough thoughts? Yeah, where are you at?
I do, yeah. It's my vision board of sorts, so to speak. I think that what's interesting is I've spoken to a couple of headhunters who friends are in the network, and a common question I've been getting at the moment is, tell me about the industry, the size of revenue, and the headcount that is important to you in your next role. And my response to that is, it's actually the intangibles that are really critical to me right now. So I think the three things that stick out are, am I going to be able to have an impact and influence positive culture change? I think another one is, will I be working with a cohesive, collaborative, innovative leadership team? And then lastly, I think, are they committed to the CPO role and its success? And the reason I say that is, if those things aren't in place, the rest of it doesn't matter, right? Like the industry doesn't matter, the headcount, the revenue, because you need those things in place to be a successful CPO.
Slow and thoughtful would be two great words to describe my job search. And it has been it's really been an enjoyable process, which for me, looping back to the beginning of our conversation, when I really start to spin out is when there's uncertainty around like any of the basic needs, right? So like financial stuff, if I don't have a form of income, like that's really gonna like start to spin me out. And knowing that I have the privilege of knowing a lot of amazing people, and we get to have these conversations all the time. And I found a framework that allowed me to step out of that fear and not feel like I have to have a definitive answer, because it's confusing, right? Especially if you've experienced any form of burnout, which I feel like most humans have in the last 3 years, to like definitively say, oh, this is for sure it. Like this, I am 100% certain that this is what I want my next move to look like. And sometimes the market doesn't agree with that. And so that can be a very frustrating process. So for me, having a framework that let me like push those thoughts and those feelings aside and just kind of focus on the rational stuff it's allowed me to enjoy it. And honestly, I think this is when you observe opportunities that normally would pass you by. Is when you kind of broaden your mindset. But I get it. Like I know there are people out there that are probably like, Steven is full of shit and this is really stressful. And yeah, my experience is not that. And I get that also, for sure. But we're excited for you, and we're here if we can help in any way, and we will certainly amplify this episode so that we can get the word out, because you're a brilliant mind in our space.
And
And
if you're a people leader that's listening to this and you know of an open CPO role or something similar to what he's described that he'd be interested in outside of a CPO role, you know where to find him. So
Thanks, guys.
for sure. Well, we're at that time. We've got to bring the conversation to a close. And usually it's rapid fire questions, but today it's going to be really rapid fire questions, because I think a couple of us have hard stops. So we're going to just shift right into that. So Alex, first question for you. How do you define a modern people leader? What are the traits and characteristics?
Somebody who, you mentioned the word earlier, Stephen, resilient. You've got to be resilient, particularly in this job today and probably in the future, because it's not easy and there will be bumps along the way. So you've got to have sort of tough skin to sort of get through the tough times as well as the good times. Somebody who's a continuous learner, because as we talked about, this function is only going to continue to evolve and change. Somebody who really understands their business strategy, because otherwise you're not going to be able to formulate the best people strategy for your employees. And then honestly, somebody who continues to want to innovate and think differently as a result, and really uses data to help tell a story, but also understands that there's other things beyond data that weigh into decision making as well. So I think those are the ones that stick out for me.
Yes, to all of those. Next question. If you could go back in time and talk to a 22-year-old you, what career advice would you give yourself and why? I've been looking forward to this question.
So, firstly, my 22 self, was very scary and having a lot of fun in New York City. But I would say so this one is very important. I think don't let ambition fuel all of your decision making would be one thing that I would say. Another one is taking time out isn't a bad thing. It's actually healing and allows for self-reflection. And I think having spent most of my life growing up in Hong Kong and New York, I'm sort of used to being on a hamster wheel. And so I think it's particularly at that age I was. So keeping that in mind. And you both said it before. So it's funny because I was thinking it as well, is it's easy to be hard on yourself, but it's much harder to be kind to yourself. So continue to celebrate the small victories.
Yes, I love that. That's got to be a quote right there for us. Last question. Is there anything you believe to be true about the world of work, but don't yet have the data to support?
Yeah, I think the spread of misinformation is one thing and how that impacts people in their day-to-day jobs because there's so many different news sources and things that are out there. I also think that people's mental health will continue to be challenged. We talked a lot about AI and digital today. I think, that created a lot of stress for people before the pandemic, and we've got so many different we've got so many different employee demographics and generations in the workforce today. So we're seeing more of that shift to a lot of remote tele everything, and that will reduce social connection and in-person contact. So I'm curious what that will mean for people's mental health as well. And then the last one I would say is the pressure to find more technology interventions in HR versus people to reduce costs and increase automation. So I think that used to be a nice to have for certain places. I think it's going to become a must have as well.
I think that's the first time that we've gotten multiple answers for that question. I feel like usually people are like struggling to think of one.
Hopefully they all made sense.
No, they all made sense to me.
For sure.
So you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation that you now have a new friend who's also a people leader that you think would be great for the show. Who else, if he's maybe one of them, who else should we invite? And who is this new friend? I don't think you shared that with us.
No, I didn't. So that friend his name is James Hudson. He's the former VP of talent acquisition at Nike. And the other one, and I don't think she's been on here before, but you may know her. She was at Transform, is Hiba Youssef, who's the Chief People Officer of WeWork. And the only other one I can think of, but I think she might have been on the show, is Jessica Winder, who's the SVP of People at Refine Labs. I'm not sure if she's been on or not.
Yeah, so we've had Jessica on. We were supposed to have Heba on, and then I think it just like fell through the cracks for the both of us. So we definitely need to reach back out to her, and we need to have James on. So if you're comfortable and want to give us an intro, we would love to have James on.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
All right, so on to our final tradition, which is one word or phrase close. So we all respond with a word or a few words from the episode that we want to close with. And who has something?
I do. I've got two words, and I think I used it earlier, but through our conversation, it became abundantly clear that this was the one for me, which is connective tissue. So I think the three of us clearly have stories which connect us, even if we live very different lives. And the other thing is, Stephen mentioned it earlier, like both of you having had different conversations through the podcast, you hear slightly different versions of very similar themes. So connective tissue was the phrase that sprung out to me.
Love that. I'm ready to come in.
I
was ready. I've been ready. So for me, it's personal board. And I am just such a big fan. We didn't get to talk about it. I was like, I had a couple points, but we're on a strict timeline today. But personal board. And if you don't know what that is and you're interested, reach out to Alex, reach out to me. They're so powerful, especially in difficult times. So personal board.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with self-compassion. Everybody out there, be kind to yourselves. Life's not easy. And I think you put it, what did you say earlier, Stephen? We want to plan out this perfect life, but life kind of just happens to you. So be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
What a perfect way to end this conversation. Alex, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute blast.
Thank you guys for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Modern People Leader. We really, really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star rating. It would mean the world to us. And connect with us on LinkedIn. We wanna know what you think about the show. You can find links to both of our profiles in the show notes. So thanks again for listening, and see you on the next episode.